I even thought that Nezha was a girl. So I saw Nezha 2, and here are my thoughts. But it might be a little bit different than what you think. So a few weeks ago, a few of my friends saw my social media and said, hey, there's a lot of foreigners doing reviews on Nezha 2. You study Chinese cinema, why don't you do one yourself? At first, I was kind of against the idea of doing a video like this. I just feel like it's not the kind of thing that I do. Plus, I've been so busy recently that I really didn't have any time to go to a movie theater to watch anything. But after thinking about it for a few days, I said, hey, it might be a good excuse for a date night. Let's do it. So before we get into this, I just want to clarify a few things. I know nothing about this movie. I know nothing about the IP. I know nothing about the mythology. I even thought that Nezha was a girl. Before I share my thoughts about this movie, I just wanted to preface a few things. I know there's a lot of other people out there that could talk about this movie much more in depth, that have a lot more authority to talk about this movie, but for this video, I just want to talk about this movie from my rather unique perspective. And that unique perspective is not just being a foreigner. I don't often share this here, but I actually did a major in film studies at the University of Toronto where I specialized in Chinese cinema. And it's actually one of the reasons I decided to come to China in the first place, to learn Chinese. My studies mainly focused on 5th and 6th generation filmmakers in China, but it did also have some Chinese animation, mainly pre-2000s. I wouldn't say I'm an expert by any means, but I do feel that this does all add up to a bit of a unique perspective. And I must say, I was pleasantly surprised. For this sharing, I want to break it down into 3 parts. 1, animation, 2, character, and 3, my personal story. I'll start with the more obvious part, which is the animation. After seeing this movie, I was absolutely blown away. I can tell that it is a major step for Chinese animation. And after doing a little bit of research on it, I could see why they needed over 4,000 animators from over 100 companies in China just to work on this film. It becomes really obvious in many of the amazing scenes, especially the final scene. Alongside this, I really felt that Nezha 2 was embracing a unique Chinese aesthetic of animation, which was really influenced by ancient Chinese culture and artistry, which makes a lot more sense after looking into it and seeing that the director insisted on using animation talent from China to create this film. This by no means discounts any of the other amazing Chinese animation that has come out in recent years, like Deep Sea, Monkey King, Hero is Back, White Snake, even going all the way back to the original Nezha. With a movie like Nezha 2, you really start to feel that this unique aesthetic of Chinese animation is finally getting recognition on a global stage, which for a film student like me studying Chinese cinema for so long, it's really great to see Chinese animation getting the flowers it deserves. Side note, if you want to learn more about Chinese animation, I highly recommend that you check out the Chinese Film Museum in Beijing. They have a really great exhibit on it. I've been there a few times and I absolutely love it. I recommend it to anyone. While watching this movie, I couldn't help but think about another recent Chinese phenomenon that really embraces its Chinese roots and creates a unique aesthetic that broke onto the world stage, Black Myth Wukong. And it's really great to see international audiences who may have not had that much exposure to Chinese culture, let alone Chinese pop culture, finally seeing this and really embracing this unique aesthetic. Heck, even my friends back home are telling me how many times they've played Black Myth Wukong. I think in this way, Nezha 2 will not just be a watershed moment for Chinese animation, but also Chinese entertainment as a whole. The second aspect of this film that I really liked was how deep the characters were, especially in a movie for all audiences. Which brings me to one of my favorite challenges of filmmaking, how to make unrelatable characters relatable. Every filmmaker aims to make their characters relatable. Think about your favorite movie. You love the characters because they're relatable. And what's really hard for a filmmaker is making otherwise distant or even despicable characters relatable. That is a true feat in cinema, and some of my favorite movies are based off of characters that are just like that. This becomes even harder when you're talking about gods. How else do you take characters who are all-powerful and perfect by their nature and suddenly give them human faults and issues that are relatable and an audience can gravitate to within the 2 hours of screen time? You see this happen all the time in movies, whether it's a Chinese mythology movie or an American superhero movie. Just think about a movie where you see this perfect character on screen and you just want to punch them in the face. There's a reason why everyone loves Batman movies, but not everyone can say the same for Superman movies. Which brings me back to Nezha 2 and the question of how do you make unrelatable characters relatable? In Nezha, in the first film, this is done by exploring the idea of challenging your destiny and not becoming a victim of it. But what I found really interesting is in the second film, this idea of character exploration is expanded to numerous characters, particularly Shen Gongbao, who transforms from a relatively stereotypical villain in the first film into a person with conflicting motives and motivations that come together to make his character really enticing. There's so many characters like this in the film, but in the end, the fact that people like myself, people in China, and people all around the world are relating to and even sympathizing with these celestial characters really is a feat in itself. And remember, this is a movie for all ages. For me, it's character exploration like this that I haven't seen for quite some time in such an unexpected place. Which brings me to my last point. My biggest takeaway was I haven't had such a great experience in a movie theater in quite some time. And that's coming from a person whose life revolves around film. I think the only constant in my life was my love for movies. Even when I was going into university and I had no idea what to do with my life, the only thing I could fall back on was film, which is why I decided to do a degree in film studies, a degree that doesn't necessarily have the clearest career path. When I was in university, I was basically watching a movie a day, hoping that it would impact my work at Warner Brothers at the time and beyond. And when I moved to China, I kept this going by going to the movie theater as much as I could, watching movies online in the hopes of improving my Chinese and just taking in everything I could on this new journey. Back then in 2015, I had this wide-eyed excitement for Chinese film and the movie industry. My love for Wong Kar-wai and Jia Jiangke was fueling my dreams of hopefully one day finding a job in the movie industry here. I even remember at the time I had 3 goals. One was to learn Chinese, the second one was to find a job, and the third one was to eventually make a movie in China. Now with my work and what I do, I still feel like there's a lot of connection with film, and it's actually not that far from that original goal I set out. But whether it's my work or my life, I just find myself going to the movie theater less and less. I think last year I could count the number of times on one hand that I went to the movie theater. And there's a few reasons for that. One, I'm really busy, and 2, I just feel I have less motivation to spend 2 hours dedicated to sitting in a movie theater and watching a new movie. Which in hindsight is really sad considering that it plays such a major role in my life and is one of the reasons I decided to come to China in the first place. Alongside this, I felt that original momentum and love that I had for Chinese cinema that I came with to China in 2015 was slowly fading away. At that time, there was a lot of prospects of a burgeoning box office here in China, as well as a lot of collaborations with Hollywood directors and Hollywood IPs, and even a lot of massive domestic films that were really blowing up the domestic box office. But then things changed, and I changed, leading to today where I still am doing what I love, but I find that I'm so distant from that thing that originally brought me to China in 2015, Chinese cinema. Which is why for the conclusion of this video, which might sound a bit weird, I want to thank Nezha 2. Not just for 2.5 hours of great entertainment at the movie theater, but also helping me rediscover my love for Chinese film and reminding me why I came to China in the first place. It's kind of funny that it took a massive box office and one of the biggest cultural phenomenons in the world to remind me of that, but hey, that's the power of cinema. Thanks again for sticking around. I know this was a really long video and I spoke a lot of English, but I really wanted to share this story with you. And if you want to see me share any more stories about my experience in the film industry or my love for film, just let me know in the comments down below. See you later.